might actually be working.
It says it's streaming.
All right, I was gonna say, give it a second. Oh, all of my phones say it's streaming.
There you go.
All right, and then I'm going to record to the cloud. And there we go. Now we're recording everywhere. Go for it.
Okay. So let's call this meeting to order then. Do we need to do a roll call or anything at these, just committee meetings?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so let's go around and see who's here.
Or you can just say who's here, just
Yeah,
as
there we go.
on the recording.
In that case, we have Mayor Hughes. We have Council President Shrimp, who's on this committee. Councilperson Wolf, who's on this committee. Councilperson McNamara, who is not on the committee but sitting in. Myself, Councilperson Ruger, and Eric is on here as well. And I can't remember your title, Eric, so there you go.
Planning director is fine.
Planning Director, there you go. All right, first thing I want to go before we go any further, because there was some question about this. I would like everyone just quick 2-minute or so opinion on what it is we actually want. As far as I can see, there are 3 options. We can have concrete repair done just by the village, concrete repair just by residents, or concrete repair done by residents and villagers. Which is, of course, the proposal we have in front of us now. If I could just hear your guys' opinion on it, especially if I think if we can get it out of this committee with a block opinion, then once we get to actual council, we'll have enough votes for it to go to, in theory. So Councilperson Wolf, what are your thoughts?
Sure. So I like the idea of giving, it being the residents' responsibility, because ultimately it should be their responsibility. The way that the legislation is currently written, though, it presumes that the village will do the work, right? That the villager, the resident has to opt out for them to do the work themselves. And I think that's backwards. The
Okay,
presumption should be that the resident does the work, and we allow that if they don't within a timely manner, we would do that and send them the bill.
Okay, that's a little different. That's how it's going to happen. I know. Do you want it, both of those options preserved? Do you prefer a plan where both of those options are preserved?
Yes.
Okay. Council President Shrimp, which option do you prefer?
Well, just based on what Tiffany was saying in terms of the administration, just wondering if there was really, does somebody need to mute? Just, by the way, is Tony on?
Not that I see, no.
Okay. That's interesting, because he definitely wanted to comment, right?
Mhm.
Okay,
Give an opportunity to council.
okay.
I text him to see where he is, so I'll let you know.
Okay. So anyway, my concern is just concern of the administration. I don't know that it seems logical. Well, I think that the resident should fix it. I guess I agree with Brian that the resident should fix it. And then, but I guess at some point the village may end up needing to or wanting to fix it. And then, but I don't know that needs to be spelled out in the document. But I did read the resident letter that was provided today by Eric in terms of how they worked it. But I think just the easier, the less complicated, the better for the administration. But it seems like at some point there may be some people that can't or won't, and I don't know how else you would handle that. So.
Okay, so just to clarify then, you do want there to be an option that the village could just do the work and bill the homeowner. Is that what you're saying?
That option is a complicated option, I think, to actually administer. So I guess I don't know enough to push that. I don't know enough to push it because I don't really know the amount of work it's going to take for all of that to actually happen. And is it even practical in terms of, I would want to hear a finances opinion on how easy it would be, or how time consuming, and how if the effort is worthwhile.
So let me ask you a question, Diane. So if a resident doesn't maintain the sidewalk that their property abuts, right, is the village just going to let it crumble?
Right. Now, the other option is that the village does it, but they don't bill.
I think a mechanism to recoup that, even if we fail, should be in any ordinance written so that we can at the very least attempt it and decide whether it's worth the effort of getting a judgment on the property, right? Because I would imagine that would be the recourse, that
Mhm.
you say, you send out the notice, your sidewalk needs this maintenance. You give them however many days is in the legislation to do that work. It's not done. We do the work. We, per the terms of the legislation, send them a bill. They have so many days to pay it. It goes to our mayor's court, which then files a judgment, right, that we can then file as a lien. And probably we can write into the legislation that all the expense that goes into that goes in as part of that lien.
And
Jump in.
well, I don't know if that's doable legally, but I hear you. But I just don't like to. I don't like to write things in and talk about doing things that we really have no ability or no intention to actually do.
I would say,
Since we have so much trouble right now with zoning and code enforcement as it is actually happening, we want to take on something else. I mean, I'm not good. I would not, if this goes into resolution, I would not vote against it. I'll just say this, I would not vote against it if it had this other language in it. I would not vote against it. But I just don't see us actually following through. I would like to get more of a comfort that we're following through. That's my point, but I'm not opposed to it. I just think it's too bad, that we are saying we're going to do something that we're probably not going to do.
So I think the follow through is a different animal.
opinion there. Councilperson McNamara, I know you're not actually on the committee, but if you want to take a minute or two and give your opinion on it since you're here, and then we'll go with Councilperson Kroll in just a moment.
As in right now, or do you want to let Councilman Wolf finish his statement?
Oh, sorry, go ahead. He
Oh,
was,
no, it's okay. I was had something go back on Diane, but we can move forward. It's fine.
sorry about that. Go
I have
ahead.
something to add, if I may.
Go ahead.
So the simplest solution, as you're discussing, is already written into Ohio Revised Code. All right. The residents are responsible for their sidewalk. If you want to put it back upon the resident at the very base, you don't need to do anything. We can add some language to our code, which will basically mirror the state's code. And at the end of the day, we will simply zoning enforce, which means, we go out and we find a block that's, say, heaved, or it's cracked in half, or it's, deteriorating in some way. And at our discretion, we will write a letter, and we will say you have a certain amount of time to do it. And if they don't do it, then we will do it, and we will lien the property as part of the, as part of the process. That's the simplest way to do it. If you want to do it some other way, and a lot of municipalities maintain these sidewalk programs as an example in order to keep things consistent, because at the end of the day, a consistent neighborhood helps your property values and keeps everybody safe from a nominal standpoint. But you guys can choose your flavor of how you want to proceed.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, David.
Well, so if it's in the Ohio Revised Code that the property owner is responsible for the sidewalk that abuts their property, then there doesn't seem to be any way to get around that. So the village simply taking over the responsibility for all the sidewalks seems to be kind of a moot point. What it seems to be what seems to be the debate right now is how we as a village are going to go about repairing and recouping financial losses from property owners that simply refuse to cooperate. Is that a fair assessment?
That is a second stage of it, yes, or certainly an aspect of it. Right now, I was just more looking at, for instance, what we have in front of us now, the draft language that we were sent is based on the idea, as Eric was saying, of there are municipalities that want to do the work because then they can ensure the consistency of the product and the labor from start to finish. And then if people want to, they provide an option for them to opt out. Do we want to have that option for them to opt out? Obviously, it sounds like we have to have them. In that case, do we want to have at the end of the day, if someone's just dragging their feet, I believe legally we can fix their sidewalk and then bill them and put a lien on their property.
Okay.
And
So-
I could see doing that.
Yeah, I could see doing that, provided there's a, like, we're not going to just send them a letter and then the next day tear up and replace their sidewalk and send them a bill.
No, I
Like,
mean, you give them 60 days plus or minus weather and whatnot.
yeah. I guess.
Right
I'd
now, what we have,
for full disclosure, a sidewalk does not abut my property. I don't really have a dog in this fight. But on a personal level, that is.
Yeah.
But I guess I would like to, make sure that everything's done as fairly, and I do like the uniformity. I do like the idea of us as a village being able to ensure uniform standards so that someone's not just, pouring a bag of Quikrete over some grass and,
Mhm. Well, we
So I
can
guess
still
that-
enforce, uniform standards by having requirements and specifications for the type, the finishing, et cetera, of the concrete.
Okay, so I guess maybe I'm not, maybe this is on me. Maybe I'm not quite grasping what is the contention between the options we're looking at here.
So the main two options I'm seeing, or three, depending on how you want to look at it, but it seems like from what we just heard about Ohio Revised Code, there's really two options.
Yeah, I did get that much.
Yeah, do we want to have a program where primarily we tell people, hey, your concrete's not ready and we're just going to fix it and bill you? Or do we tell people, hey, your concrete's not up to snuff, fix it. If you can't, we'll do it and bill you. It's which way we're starting with. Are we starting with the assumption that they will do it on their own and we will come if need be and then bill them? Or are we saying, unless you do something and send us a letter, we're going to fix it and we're going to bill you, and you can just sit there and wait for the bill to arrive in the mail and not think about it?
Okay, I think I like the second option, more of an opt-in where if they can choose to fix it. Is that a fair assessment?
Okay, so you would prefer the village just does it unless they want to opt in and say, no, I'll do it, don't worry.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, that is, I guess, that seems the most, fair. Uniform, fair. We're a village, we're a government entity. We are a presence in the community and we are demonstrating that presence, but not overstepping completely.
awesome, thank you. Councilperson Curl, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'd love to see a map of where this relates to. Do we have current sidewalks that are a problem, right?
We
as
have
we-
0 sidewalks that are a problem right now. All the sidewalks we have right now have been poured within the past 12 to 24 months. Any sidewalks that are a problem right now are going to get fixed by MI when we do our final walkout. But what this legislation's for is not today, but for 10 years from today, when the sidewalks are cracking, so that it's on the books and council and governance can just pull it up and say, look, it's already there.
Well, I would just say quickly, people have been dealing with sidewalks a long time. There's a lot to just doing the work ourselves and then trying to bill somebody.
So-
Are we gonna have uniformity in the contractor and the prices per square foot and all this? But it seems to me a little authoritarian to, be talking about court and seizures and things like that over cracking a sidewalk. But you can handle that by just softening language. It doesn't have to soften the enforceability.
So I guess my question, and this is just my question that I wanted your quick comments on. Do you prefer when someone's sidewalk is in dangerous need of repair, that the first option we give is a letter that says the village will fix this and bill you unless you opt out? Or would you prefer language that says it is your responsibility to fix this, and if you don't, then as an emergency, the village will fix it and bill you? That's the question.
Well, I think for time immemorial, it's always been the latter's always been the last resort option. However, if we have arrangements or make arrangements with people that do concrete work, little jobs, they can end up seemingly, at least to certain people, they may seem expensive. But if we had some options that provided a fair price, then the initial thing could be an offering of, you can have these people come do it, and then you could maintain some uniformity in the work that way.
Okay.
The other thing would be, that's who we send in the end, last resort.
All right. Thank you very much. Tony, I think I know what you're going to say, but I'll give you a minute or two here.
I'm sorry that I
just-
didn't, I'm just now getting in the meeting here.
That's all right. I'm just trying to give everyone a quick say on this. What is your preference?
Well, my preference is that we don't go into a program other than telling the people they need to fix it. And if they don't, we're going to go and fix it.
Okay. Perfect. So you are for the second option, where our language says it is on the homeowner's responsibility, but if after being notified, they do not take steps to correct it, the village will correct it and bill them. But it will not be an assumption that the village will go in there until they are delinquent.
Right,
That
they'll be
is what,
given the opportunity to fix it.
obviously given the obviously
Right.
given a set amount of time to fix it, or to contact council and say, look, I know it's there. Can I have, then we're getting into all kinds of ticky stuff that I'm not looking to get into right now. Stuff like, what would be the reason for exemptions or extensions or various grace? I'm not going to go into that particularly right now at this point in the conversation. But you definitely think it should be their responsibility. Joe seems to be sort of neutral. Diane's sort of neutral, but was leaning towards homeowner. David seemed to be leaning towards homeowner. After thinking about it, I prefer it's just the homeowner's responsibility, and the village comes in as a last resort, which I think is putting us close to a majority of thinking here, or at least a vote. So let's assume then the document we have in front of us is not necessarily going to be a working document that we can use.
Well, I think the thing that we need to define are the require, or what is an acceptable.
That's not what we're doing right now, Tony.
Right,
Right
well,
now,
I'm-
we're starting at the big framework of what it is we're trying to do. We can work on the details of doing it, perhaps later in this meeting, certainly, but certainly not right now.
Well, I'm just saying
So-
that I haven't looked at it, but I think there are some descriptions in this document.
Once
that
again,
talk-
Tony, that's not what we're discussing right now. We're discussing the scope of our legislation, not the actual details in it.
When will that take place, there, Chairman of the committee?
I'm not entirely
While
sure
you're-
right
What's
but
that?
it's certainly not right now. So either way, that means that this document is not going to really suit our needs, because this document presupposes that the village is going to be the primary repairer, And it seems like we do not, as a council, think that is how things should be. That we think the primary repair person should be the homeowner, and the village should only act in cases of need or necessity.
And the village will have, I'm guessing, options to send these people in the right direction so that we can maintain uniform quality.
I'm sure the village, who has contractors that they work for or that work for them and like, could come up if they don't already, and maybe Mayor Hughes, you would know this. Do we have lists of recommended contractors, or we just leave that to the Facebook page?
I've been told it's safer to not recommend
out of
because
there.
when you recommend, then you're kind of putting your sign, seal, and approval on it. So it's better as a village standpoint to not recommend. That's just what I've been told from my 3 months of being here. So, but no, I mean, just in general, no. We don't want to recommend somebody over another just for the simple fact if it doesn't go well, we've recommended them.
And then it also
Okay.
brings up, why are you recommending? Is anyone?
They're not calling them back, and then they're calling us saying you're the one that recommended it. They're not returning my phone call, or the workmanship wasn't up to their par.
But we would lay out the specifications that any
Yes.
contractor would have to abide by, and we would have the ability to inspect that work. And if it's not up to the specification, we can indicate as much.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we're not going to leave people completely high and dry and then come in later and then fix it and bill them.
Well, we kind of are, but once again,
It's like that with any code
people on the
violation
internet,
that if,
people have yellow pages, people can look for concrete people already, when they need a tree down, just go to the Facebook group and say, hey, any recommendations for someone to pull the tree down? And we
And
can let
it's in the Ohio Revised Code. We can't get around
Yeah.
that. So
yeah.
Well, I'll
as long as we
clarify
can be as
something.
humane as we can be.
Mhm.
I'll clarify one thing. I'm not really neutral. I think, in real life, if a situation becomes where you have a sidewalk issue, it should be repaired. It's just, I've been around a long time. I've had to repair some myself, and usually you get the notice and they ask you to do it, but they give you plenty of time. But to Mayor Tiffany's point, if we send somebody in to fix it, I think we're kind of recommending who does the work.
right, that's why we're not going that direction, Joe.
Yeah.
That's why it seems like the committee is saying, and committee, really council as a whole, because I solicited from everyone here. We want to craft a resolution that starts with, it is the individual homeowner's responsibility to fix it, with, of course, a tail end on that says, if it is not fixed within a reasonable amount of time, we can find out what that reasonable amount of time is, 60 days or what have you. The village will do it and bill all the costs associated with that to the resident. And all the costs can go to office staff cost. If someone in the office is making calls and spending some of their workday, I assume, but could be wrong, we can bill the resident for that office worker's time, even though they were necessarily going to be
It's
at the office.
all associated costs.
Yes.
Well, you could cover those costs with a thing called a fine for noncompliance, and as opposed to trying to bill somebody for hours.
Whichever way is going to be easier. I would almost leave that up for some administrative debate.
To have
You're
standards
trying
for
to
the
talk. I think
concrete.
you're on mute, buddy.
Yeah, they have standards for the concrete itself is pretty standard, forever. And then we could have a standard as to how we send these notices out.
Yep.
Sometimes if you sound too authoritarian, people rebel. Then it just becomes more aggravating for everybody.
Mhm. All right, Dave, were you trying to say something a bit ago?
No, I was, I muted to ask the wife a question.
You were talking off screen. That's what.
Well, I think Eric's there. Was our standard 3 or 4 inches with rebar, Eric?
Off the top of my
There's
head,
no
I'm not the
rebar.
engineer. We're full use and stats. Generally, what we say is, since other tax dollars have paid for standards, for example, the city of Columbus has produced a ton of standards that most, because of their size here in the region, most contractors are most familiar with Columbus's standards, and we can just refer right to those. And I'll present those to you to look at and see if those meet your needs, but they should.
For
I think it's
consistency, meeting
four
Columbus
inches
standard
with
sounds fair.
rebar and expansion joints is all they really say, gravel underneath.
Mhm.
There's a sub base.
Yeah, once again, I don't think we need to, I'm not qualified to go into concrete standards. I'll assume we'll get someone else's standards, or as Eric was saying, use Columbus's, since that's what most of the contractors are working with. It makes sense to glob onto their standards and do it. So some of that then means, even though I printed them all out so we could go through them if anyone had a problem line by line, this stolen PAL document is now kind of moot, kind of dead.
Well, we could still, it does specify the standards for the, what would require repair, right? And
You
those
are
standards, we
correct
could
on
certainly,
that.
That's why I wanted to talk about that, Chairman.
and
There are parts
I
of
don't,
that ordinance that are valuable.
I'm sorry, please continue, Councilperson Wolf.
I was, nothing, I was just saying that, yeah, that's where we should go. And that's where you were going next. That's all I was
Yeah,
saying.
and now would be the time to talk about that. Now that we know we have sort of our overreaching goal there set. So,
I'll say one other thing. Powell is the last place I personally had to deal with this, and they would send the notices that were very clear, but they behaved differently. They didn't come try and beat you over the head, make you do something type of thing. They'd send you notice after notice if you didn't do it, and then people did.
yeah, I grew up in an older neighborhood off Kenny and Fishinger in Columbus, and we had sidewalk sections that you could use as a bike ramp because Columbus is a big enough city. No one inspects, no one enforces, and we didn't have a homeowners association. And I don't have sidewalks in my neighborhood, but I don't want that to happen down there. So, all right. So let's take a look then. I think it would be good now to look at criteria here, which is XXX.04, which talks about what would trigger a letter to tell a homeowner to fix their thing.
I think Eric could speak to that. Columbus has standards on that, and basically it amounts to something. If you're going to slip and fall in the winter or trip on a crack that has an offset to it, and it was a safety hazard, then they would. That's when it would kick in and require a repair.
Yeah.
I feel the same way, that if we could look at Columbus's standards, because we're pretty well an enclave of Columbus, or I think enclave would be the correct phrase, and then modify that if it needs to be modified for our needs. That'd be a good starting point.
Yes, the PAL document, I'll just speak to this since I've worked over there and was familiar with the engineer that designed these, was fairly thorough. And they started with Columbus's documentation, and he added on to it. So I would say it's a step above Columbus's standards to some degree from an engineering perspective. And so for those, obviously I sent this around to the committee members specifically today with some adjustments. I'm not sure if everyone got the original one. There were some minor ones to the original. I'd be happy to give you a basis regarding Columbus's sidewalk standards, and you can kind of, for the next meeting, or however many, you can go from there.
Well, I mean, looking at it now, I know I don't see anything on here that is jumping out to me as egregious. The one thing was 1/4 inch and going to 1/2 inch, and that's already changed in it. Is there anyone on the committee who has any problems with these things right now?
I do not.
So what it would trigger. Okay. So it sounds like we can keep this, XXX.04 as part of whatever legislation we do and not have to rewrite requirements for when it needs fixed. Although we will do just say it's up to the person and we'll have to put something on the back end of that. And if not completed within 60 days, the village will complete the work and the property owner will be billed for all charges.
I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding is that if you had a sidewalk problem and a person actually did suffer an injury, that the person liable the homeowner.
That is correct. I shouldn't say that's correct. I believe that to be correct as well. I'm not a legal person, but although legally I am a person, but I will say,
I don't know if that would change if we the ones that put the sidewalk in, though, is my thing.
We're not doing
no,
No, it's,
not any more than if someone trips on a road or whatever can necessarily sue the place. So that means, well, that means a lot of this document is now useless. Because procedure for construction, I guess, is still there, but we don't need to send requirements for permitting and inspection, although we probably do, because we are still going to, there's the next thing. And this seems to be an obvious yes to me, but we'll just go through the committee real quick. If I want to replace my sidewalk, do I need to be permitted and inspected? Councilperson Wolf,
yes.
Council President Shrimp.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Real quick, since they're here, I'll give you the honor here. Councilperson Curl,
Yes.
McNamara,
So permitted and inspected, what is the context for this, I guess?
I want to replace my sidewalk. Do I need a permit and an inspection?
Yes.
Councilperson Benedetti?
Thank you for indulging me, Chairperson. Yeah, this is one of the few places that I would like to see permitting and inspection.
Bam, sounds like a yes. Okay, moving on. Trying to get done before 8. I know Mayor Hughes probably has another walk she wants to take. Okay, so is there anything else in this document that anyone then wants to discuss or go over? It sounds like we have a job for Eric to do here to kind of pare this down and put it into a new document just with the parts that we want. Is there anyone else with any thoughts or ideas on it?
No, I did like the letter from Westerville because it took care of my concern about, you know, because of weather, it could be postponed or blah, blah. It actually, the letter actually goes into times of the year in which these inspections are normally done, which it makes a lot of sense to me.
So you would like some of that to be put into the actual legislation then? Is that what I'm hearing?
Either that or the letter could be an exhibit. Our final letter could be an exhibit to this, right? Or an appendix attachment.
Yes.
Okay,
That might be better because then if you had to change, if you wanted to change the letter, you could just change that piece of this. It would be probably simpler.
and as I read this now, because there are sections, of course, of sidewalk that the village are going to be responsible for. As I go for my walks, I'm down in the new section and I'm on whatever that road is that I walk on that goes over the creek and has a little tunnel underneath it. There's a
Correct.
fair amount of sidewalk there that is our sidewalk, correct?
Correct. The Old Vista connector is also another example. That'll be ours too.
Yeah.
Well, while you're on, Eric, I'll ask you a quick question. It seems to me like the village would have reserve and have the ability or right to inspect anytime they felt like it. But isn't there some complaint process if somebody's filing a complaint about one?
So just like just like any particular zoning enforcement action, the public can also let us know that there's an issue with a particular property. Someone's tripping and falling, kids are falling on because a block is heaved, you know, a full inch. They're gonna let us know, and then we're gonna immediately let the homeowner know, and it's a safety issue, and we're gonna require them to fix it within a short amount of time, or we'll have to get on it. We'll probably mark it as such that it's a dangerous, you know, we'll mark it with tape or a cone at that point in time, just like we would a pothole in the road. Be the same idea there. So that's basically the process.
Yeah,
And
and
it
I have
seems
not,
like a lot to me, frankly.
I missed that last part, sir.
An inch seems like a lot to me.
It's right. It can happen. There could be a collapse and a heave and, you know, underneath, and there it goes. I'm just saying as an example, because
Yeah.
sometimes, as we know, we've seen sidewalks as you know, Mark was suggesting, that they just get to a certain point and then they're in bad shape. So, but we hopefully won't let it get that far. That's why we'll have minimum requirements, you know, for how they, you know.
Yeah,
for
my
what
point
triggers
was
work.
it could
Yep.
be a bona fide safety hazard at less than an inch.
Absolutely.
yes, and
So let's, I guess, look at the standards that, you know, the city of Columbus, or, you know, whatever we choose to go with, keeps for the threats to health and
well,
safety, or the,
I think what I had asked earlier was XXX04 inspection criteria. Did anyone have a problem with that? No one seemed to. And those are just the Village of Powell's ones, which were built off Columbus because everyone just glommed
Oh.
onto the biggest thing with maybe some thing. And just to put your mind at ease there, Joe, on that thing, the difference in gradient is half an inch or more, not a full inch. So even
Yeah,
at a half an inch of this, of, where does it say it? I just read it.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's
Portions whose
two.
edges
No.
differ vertically by half an inch or more. Once you get to a half inch vertical difference, it can trigger a repair request. So that's already taken care of.
I apologize then. I was unaware that the criteria was based off Powell rather than Columbus. That's
Yep.
not trying to cause any
That's-
confusion.
That's totally understandable. Okay, so Eric, your homework then is to take the parts of this that we want, mostly the criteria. Did anyone have any problems with the procedure for construction, repair, or replacement that were in there? What it was requiring people to do. I mean, obviously stuff like the requirements for permitting and inspection of the property owner intend to opt out would kind of be changed because it's assumed that they are opting in. Because that was opt out and they were going to do it themselves, and we seem to be going towards, we expect you to do it yourself. But does anyone, I don't know, once again, anything about concrete, so I don't know what any of the words talking about concrete or grading. I can assume that a broom finish is how you get those fine little lines, because you take a little broom over the top of it at the end.
That's what it's called even, I think.
There you go.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I don't know my concrete enough to comment on it. Does anyone?
Better than you realized.
No, there
There
can be other things to it. For example, drainage, some places might need a slope to it so the water doesn't pool, and
That's in there.
expansion joints.
That's in there.
It's all in
Yeah.
there. It's really all in there. It's all in there.
Okay, so we're happy with that.
The
We're
only thing that's not
happy-
in there is what happens when your kid rides over it with a bicycle before it's dry. Is it your problem?
Mhm.
Yeah. So we're happy with the inspection criteria. We're happy for the procedure for construction, repair, or replacement. We're going to start with construction by property owner, because that's not going to be the opt-out. That's going to be the default. Is there anything else anyone has on this that they would like to add here before we have Eric draft up our new language?
Yeah, the last section 11 on the last page, it just gives a procedure for someone who fails. We're not going to have the opt out, but who fails to construct or repair.
That would almost, to me, sound like we would have something similar to that, that just says, if you do not, instead of failure to complete construction, repair, or replacement, what actually, that would be the great heading.
Right.
If you don't do this, So yeah, okay, I guess what you're saying is you want to make sure that's in there because we
Yeah, well,
need,
yeah, is, and is this exactly what we want to do? Because this has a impose a rate of $50 per day until improvements are constructed, and it also has a misdemeanor for and fine not less than $50 or for, so there's a couple of fees in there. There's a couple of penalties, and just asking the group if this is what we want.
I'll say 60 days seems like pretty short to me. It seems like there should be more time. But that's controversial.
If it's a
I
big
have to say
hazard,
60
you
days
can't,
seems appropriate.
yeah, if
Yeah.
it's a big hazard, you can't let it go much longer than that. I mean, at some point, they're either going to fix it or they're not. I mean, if there's a weather issue or something like that, again, they can reach out. I mean, we're real people, whatever. We're not going to go give somebody a unless there's something crazy. You can't do it in December and January. We're not trying to be crazy.
yeah,
So I think, we would use realistic time period. And if there was a reason that it couldn't be done and they were doing their due diligence trying to get it done, we're not going to crack a whip on them. I mean, if they can show that they're trying to reach out to somebody, we can't, whatever. So I think as a village, none of us would be trying to be difficult, but I think 60 days is, if they're trying to get it done, 60 days is ample time.
and
Yeah,
my
we're
and if
we're
they're trying to
people,
get it-
they're people. Let's be humane within reason.
And if they're trying to get it done and they're at day 59 and they're saying, look, I'm in talks with someone,
Right.
we have that option. Let's face it, we are by far a small and nimble enough government agency where, yes, someone could petition the council and be heard or what have you. I mean, we're not a city of, one of those giant places like 5,000 people, where we're a city of like 2,200 people. But now that you mention that, I look at that and that's based on someone saying, I want to opt out, and then they don't. So we might not need that because if somebody, since we're assuming you will do it, if you don't do it at that end of that time period, we just do it and bill you. And that might get us into an even more controversial discussion, but I'm all for that. If you're not going to do it, we will do it. We will send you a bill. We won't necessarily even fine you. We will just go in, we will fix your sidewalk, we will send you a bill. And we'll make that clear when we send them that note in the first 60 days. If you don't want to deal with this, it's a hassle. You can sit on your hands for 2 months or tell us right away that you plan to sit on your hands. But after 2 months, we're going to do it and bill you.
If I
And
may
we will
suggest-
lien on your property.
If that's the way that the council chooses to go in this case, I would suggest that to incentivize them to tell you sooner, we typically attach fees to things, right, for our time and effort. So,
Yes.
for example, if you're going to have someone who is not doing anything, not communicating, just thumbing their nose at us, waiting 60 days and then making us go in there, and by that time it's 90 days have gone by for a hazard situation, we should attach fees to that situation. If you've got someone that comes to us right away in the first week and says, hey, if there's an option, I can't do it, but Myrna down the street, she can't get to it for whatever reason, health or otherwise, or grandfather's living there, who knows why. And she says, hey, I need help. Can you guys just go ahead and do it? Then that's something that the council could perhaps consider on a case-by-case basis, right? Or we can get a group of those people together. Just different thoughts. And then you don't have to fee those people because they clearly need assistance, don't want to waste our time and want to let us know right away.
Yeah. We can set an administrative fee, and then the administration can choose to waive that fee at their discretion.
Excellent. That sounds much better, much more humane.
And it sounds like it amounts to a preferred contractor list anyway.
Well, no, only if, I don't know about that, but I guess
Oh,
Go
that's
ahead, Diane.
what I'm saying is if grandpa wants to go ahead and do it and he doesn't have a clue where to go, the people that we would send in to do it afterward, if we are enforcing it, could be an option for
Mhm.
them to choose to have them do it in the first place. And then it could be billed from the contractor to the homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
Us going in to do this, going in and doing, I mean, that's going to be an unusual situation. 15 years down the
Yeah.
road.
Yeah,
Having
I-
dealt with these, usually
I
sidewalk
do think
repairs
we're
are
running down
small
rabbit
jobs.
holes of what this happens, what if this happens? And,
They're usually just small jobs to start with.
mhm.
I mean,
Okay.
settling on new construction, you're talking about MI. The only other time really it becomes an issue is tree roots that'll uproot a sidewalk.
And we got
Mhm.
a
Or
long
bad
time
concrete.
before- There's a long time before that's gonna be an issue.
And there is a long time before that, although just normal weathering practices from wind and rain, depending on how our winters go, freeze and thaw can break them up. But yes, I have a driveway that's more than 10 years old, I'm sure, that's still doing fine. Okay, Eric, I will ask, do you have enough guidance that you think you can come up with something to present to us for us to discuss?
Yes, I
Next time we need to
appreciate it.
discuss it.
No, I'm good unless there's other comments.
Anyone else with any final thoughts or comments? And maybe we can get this meeting done in less than an hour?
Well, I
No,
got-
I'll just say one thing. One good thing about standards is that it prevents a lot of these things from going bad in the first place. If you have the
Yes.
right expansion joints and so forth.
Yes, regulations often are helpful and actually do a lot of good. Diane, you were gonna say?
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say, since if they're doing the sidewalk repair and it's for the good of the whole community as well as their property, whatever, then I think any permitting fees should be waived at the proper completion of the sidewalk work.
What?
Just so you know, if you read Westerville, you're not wrong. I actually just pulled up Westerville, and if it's less than 200 square feet,
Right.
there's no fee.
Because what we're saying is if people are willing to hire a contractor and do it themselves and improve the safety.
We gotta
of-
tell them who they can hire and who they can't hire, I think.
Well, we're not saying any of that. We're saying
that.
get it done according to standards. We won't charge them a fee for the permit because they are going through and helping the village as a whole. And that is a bit of an incentive. Is that what you're saying, Diane?
Right. It's an incentive. If the fee is significant, it would incentivize them to get it done sooner than later because they want that money back.
And yet that's not inspected, just not a fee for the inspection.
Correct.
Well, if you order someone to do a repair and then they need a permit to do it, it sounds like that's edging toward you're gonna decide if you approve of the contractor doing the work or not.
Not,
No, we don't care who does it as long as they hit the specifications. Our specifications.
so why
are
would you
drawn
need a
mostly
permit?
From,
Why would you need a permit for an ordered repair?
make sure
Because-
it's done to spec.
as I understand it, the permit process triggers a notification of the village that you are doing repairs so that we can send someone out to inspect the final thing. It is less I have permission to do it and more I will require you to come tell me you're going to do this so I can send
Yeah.
someone out to look at it.
So that's talking about when, not what. Okay,
A
I
permit-
get it.
A permit
I'm not
filing
trying-
can also require them to specify, whatever material they're using and process and all of that too.
Right.
And
That's
that
what
way-
I'm getting at.
And that
way
would
we
be the
don't
other
necessarily
purpose.
Have to send a person out.
Well, no, we would still send it to make sure they did what they said they're gonna do, but first they say what they're gonna do. And then we approve that what they're saying they're gonna do. And then we go out and
Yeah.
check to make sure that they did what they say they're
Right.
gonna do.
We
That's
might
the point
order
of
the
permit.
job and they complete it in 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
then we can get ahead of it. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I do like that. I was ready to get off, but I do like that idea, Diane. That if they're willing to get on it and do it well, various fees. I mean, still a permit, but it could be a zero cost permit. Since they are not just improving their own house, but the neighborhood in general.
Right. I think it would be a nice goodwill gesture and an acknowledgement of their civic responsibility being taken. I don't know. 'Cause you're-
Yeah, that sounds really nice. I like that idea a lot. It sounds like within the confines of the Ohio Revised Code, we're being as humane as we possibly can be. That's excellence.
And Mayor Hughes, you were saying Westerville already has that written into their legislation?
Yeah, it looks like if it's under seven or less squares of sidewalk, there is no charge. Sidewalks over 200 square feet or more than 8 squares, there's a $100 fee. Driveway approach and or curb work, $100.
Okay. So, and some of that is getting, as I say, sort of, I was starting out here big and moving down. That's getting into the small details. That will be for next time, I guess. Anyone else with anything tonight?
It's always nice to end on something everybody says is a good idea.
Well, I'm
It
going to say
certainly
something,
is.
so that probably isn't going to happen. You know, I think in order to move things along quicker, if all of the council were given the stuff that's going to be discussed in the committee meetings, you know, I didn't go to the the facility committee meetings. And then when I started to object to what the committee decided they were going to do, I would say, well, we had, you know, so you had all these meetings and you didn't go and you didn't get involved, you know, so I'm here at a committee meeting that I'm not really part of. And, you know, I'm trying to get involved and trying to, you know, express my views one way or the other. And it doesn't seem to be very conducive for that in this type of meeting or the way that they're being done.
Well, I'm not on the committee, but I'm here, so I know what's going on with it. So when they
Well, right,
come
that's
to
what-
a vote,
That's
I'm not,
the point I'm
I'm not
trying to make
stupid.
is that I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't. So,
Well, I do think that everyone, I noticed Eric did not copy everyone, all the council people on the update today. So Eric, if you could remember to, and all of us committee chairs should remember to look and make sure all council people get copied on whatever it is we're going to talk about.
I will happily send it to everyone on the next update.
thank you.
At the same time, we do sort of have 3-person committee members with generally, I think, Mayor Hughes, you kind of are obligated to sit in on all of these. This is not your choice.
She's not obligated.
Doesn't
She's
have
not
to,
a-
No,
Oh, you don't have to?
not required.
I
Oh,
like to
okay.
know what's going on, sorry.
Gotcha. I'm glad you're here.
If not, then yeah, you have to repeat everything back to me again.
Yeah, and at which point, if you have 3 people in agreement plus the mayor, that's what you need to get something passed through council.
Well, just for the record, I like the way you guys are
To get
going.
something passed through council.
I'm glad everybody, the way to, if this sidewalk one is kind of a big deal. It's not, and so we should take our time with it. Not as long as we did with the grass thing though, but definitely should make sure we have it. And so we can put it to bed properly and know that it'll suit whoever is gonna be actually working it. I think that's fine as long as we move along, you know, at a good pace.
Well, I think we're finally heading in the right direction now.
I don't see us being more than one more debating of
Okay,
this,
good.
depending on what Eric sends us, of us moving it out of committee and arguing about it in council. So,
Right.
all right, if nothing else, I will, can I just adjourn this thing? Once again, still
Yes.
getting used to these.
Yep.
It's
Well, then
fine.
we stand in adjournment. Everyone have fun. Still a little bit.
Goodbye.